Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone who have joined us for the second day of webinar series on research article writing and publication, which we have started yesterday from August 1st, and we'll be continuing till August 5th. Today, we are going to begin with our second session. And our speaker for the day is Professor Dr. Mamun Habib from Malaysia. And he'll be discussing today on writing a successful conference abstract and the practical tips to get your abstract accepted. So before we begin, I would like to introduce to you our platform, IFERP, who has given us this opportunity.
Welcome to IFERP, a forum where innovations and research interest could be supported and developed, prioritizing our mutual interest. In this video, we want you to dive into our world, giving yourself a clear insight into IFERP. But
Hello.
we are funding colleges to organize conferences and scientific events, enabling researchers incubated at different areas of our country.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. So today, moving on to the session 2 on writing a successful conference abstract, practical tips to getting your abstract accepted. And we have a speaker for the day, Professor Dr. Mamun Habib. I would like to introduce to you regarding our speaker of the day, our eminent speaker, Professor Dr. Mamun Habib is a professor at School of Business and Entrepreneurship at Independent University, Bangladesh. In addition, Dr. Habib is the visiting scientist of University of Texas, Arlington in USA. Prior to that, he was associate professor at Barak Business School, Barak University, Bangladesh, Asia Graduate School of Business at Unitar International University, Malaysia, Department of Operations Research and Decision Sciences, University Utara, Malaysia, and Department of Operations Management, American International University, Bangladesh. He is the editor-in-chief in International Journal of Supply Chain Management, London, UK, which is a Scopus Index journal. He has accomplished his PhD and MS with outstanding performance in computer engineering management under the Graduate School of Business from Assumption University, Thailand. His PhD research was in the field of supply chain management. Sir has more than 18 years of experience in the field of teaching as well as in training, workshops, consultancy, and research. At present, he is supervising some PhD students at locally as well as internationally. Furthermore, he has several PhD involvements with UUM, Unirazak, AIMST, Unitar, Malaysia, and Institute for Technology and Management, then Birla Institute of Technology, which is a deemed university in India, and also University of the Assumption in Philippines. He is also involved with the online learning program at University of Roehampton, London, UK. He is actively involved with national and international research grant projects as well. As a researcher, Professor Habib has published more than 150 research papers, including conference proceedings, journal articles, and books chapters. And he serves as the editor-in-chief, lead guest editor, editorial board member, and reviewer for more than 20 journals, particularly Elsevier and Thomson Reuters index journals. Also, he delivers a lecture as keynote speaker, and he has delivered at more than 50 international conferences at various countries, particularly Taiwan, USA, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Turkey, Korea, India, UK, Greece, Bulgaria, Australia, and many more countries. He also serves as general chair, program chair, technical chair, and organizing committee member, and several positions, as well as reviewer of numerous international conferences. He received Best Track Chair Award at IEOM 2012 conference. His core research areas are supply chain management, production and operations management, operation research, research methodology, engineering management, technology management, and educational management. Finally, Professor Habib is an active member of different professional organizations, including IEEE as a senior member, and also IOM. He's the president of the SCM technical division. He's a senior member as well as a board of director at IETI, and he's a fellow member at IRED, and he's the vice president at GRDS, then IEEB, AIMS, and many more. He is involved with QS World University Ranking and Times Higher Education Ranking as an academician as well. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today evening. It's absolutely a great pleasure and honor for us to share a screen with you on this platform. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. So let us start our session. First of
Sure.
all, I'm so much honored that IFERP invited me for this kind of 5 days training program. And I spent almost 2.5 days with this with the audiences, participants.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think now it's better. We have to go for our lecture session.
Sure, sure. Without any delay, we'll move on to our slides.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You may begin.
So first of all, you understand that our series on the research article writing and publications, and then last session, the two speakers, they discussed about the journal writing. Today, basically, we'll discuss about the writing a successful conference abstract, practical tips to getting your abstract accepted. If you look very carefully in this session, we'll discuss about the conference paper, not only conference paper, successful conference abstract. That means our main construct for today is that how we can construct the conference paper and how we can confirm the successful conference abstract. And our another target is that it should be accepted. So we like to see the reviewers' comments. We like to see the editor board, those involved in the conference, their comments as well. So when I'll hold discussion today, I'll share with you the different tips, how we can overcome the comments from the reviewer, how we can overcome the comments for the conference committee. So basically, we can start in this way that first of all, you understand that why you have to think the conference, why not the journal at first. I always mention that if you're the young scholar, if you're the PhD scholars or master degree thesis student, even the BTech student, you have to go for at first the conference. Then after the publish the few papers in the conference proceedings, then you can think about the journal. So what I said that conference is the first step of your research work. So try to understand this one. What I said that conference the first step of your research paper publication. And on the other hand, now come to the question that how you can get the conference. We'll discuss about this issue today. So you understand that your research will start with a conference. So what is the research? Search, again search, again search, and again search. How you could search this one? Definitely, there's a two way you can search this one. One is that Google is the one option. Basically, we are using the Google for the online searching. If you target the online searching, the Google is the first option. And if you target that other like the traditional searching for the library, this is the second option. Modern technological advancement, we always emphasize online searching through the Google. So that is a way that how you can start to search. And then if you are the expert on the Google, you can go to the like others like Google Scholar. You can search the Google Scholar. You can search the academy.edu, ResearchGate, something like that. So I was starting this way that first of all you have to think about the research. You have to think the search and again search. Yeah, this search will start from the Google. But now come to the point is that what I said earlier that how you can think about the publication. It's very interesting thing is that I always mention that there's a two way you can get that tips for the publication. The two way you can get the tips for publication. First of all, you are the faculty member. You are teaching the university students. So when you deliver the lecture in the class, especially the semester project, check the student semester project carefully. Maybe one or two or few students, even their semester project is up to the standard. Idea is very novel, idea is very innovative. Then you can invite them, how you can write the publication. You can invite them, is it possible, can you write the publication? So it means that you teaching and the students project. This is a relation, students and teacher, and you can go for the publication. Definitely as the student's idea, so they will be the first author, and you will be the second author as you supervise. That is the starting of the publication. Secondly, suppose you some of the students, some of the graduates, they can work in the industry. So when you are delivering the lecture as a teacher, as a university professor in the class, we call it a theoretical knowledge. And when the students after the graduation, if they go for the industry work, real life application. Industry corporate job is real life application. So our theoretical knowledge in the classroom and the practical knowledge from the real life application. Is there any gap? Is there any challenge? How they could apply the theoretical knowledge in practical field? That could be the another one. So what I said that a theory on class lecture, service from the real life application. Try to see the scenario. Is there any challenge, any kind of knowledge gap, application opportunity, something like that. Based on that, we can go for the publication. So now come to the point. We got the idea that how we can go for the publication. There are various types of publication like conference paper, journal paper, book chapter, editorial book, and solo author book. And today I will discuss only conference paper, so I don't want to discuss the remaining three parts. So let's do the concentration on the conference paper. So now you understand, first of all, you need the idea, how you can go for the publication. And when you have an idea, you first target the conference paper. Then I again remind you why we are choosing the conference paper, because the initial publication in the research area. You know that I always mention this one, that if you do the PhD, you must present the paper in the conference. You understand, in the conference you have to present the paper. So that means the presentation skills is important. And when you deliver the lecture in the conference, there will be lots of participants. They can ask you many queries. Maybe based on their queries, you can revise the paper. And then you can go for the journal paper. So what I said that conference paper is the starting of your research publication. Now come to the next question. How will you get the conference? That is another issue. How you can get the conference? The first thing is that you have to check in the call for papers. Say your specialization in the marketing management. You can explore the papers on marketing management. Use specialization on the artificial intelligence, AI. So you can search there, call for papers on artificial intelligence. Use specialization on supply chain management. You just write down, call for papers on supply chain management. So why you can write? You can write in the Google. You can write in the Google. So what I said that you have to answer, call for conference paper means you have to check in the Google, is there any call for papers, conference on artificial intelligence or supply chain management or marketing management. So that is a starting point. Now, come to the question is that how you can understand the quality of the conference. I'll describe about this issue in next slide. You know why I'm talking about the conference quality, because based on that you have to decide whether you can join the conference or not. Based on that you can design that what would be the abstract. If it's a strong conference, we need the good abstract. If it's a weak conference, good abstract is not the matter. So that's why our target is the quality conference, so that we can present our paper in the quality conference. So in the conference, there were the proceedings. We call it the proceedings. The ISBN number is mandatory or not mandatory. That is another discussion. You know, ISBN number for conference proceedings, whether it's mandatory or not, is another discussion in that sense. If any conference they have the ISBN number, we assume that this is a quality conference. If any conference they don't have the ISBN number, it's okay, it's a conference, but not the that's not the quality conference. It is not the mandatory, but if any conference they have the ISBN number, we assume that it's a good conference. IEEE conference. I think you're familiar with the IEEE. This is the largest professional organization in the world. Today, many times I use the term IEEE conference, so you have to remember. IEEE, they organize the conference for the business, for the IT, for engineering, science, lots of conference organizing usually in every year by the IEEE. So IEEE is the largest professional organization. And now comes the question: is the IEEE conference? They have the ISBN number. When any conference, IEEE conference is the if it is the like the real banner under the real banner of the IEEE, definitely they have the ISBN number. So it is a very mandatory condition. Okay. So you understand the quality of the IEEE conference. Usually IEEE conference, the rate of acceptance about 50%. So it means if you submit that conference paper, there is no guarantee that your paper will be accepted. 50% probability to accept your paper. So that is the one conference proceedings. There is a two type of conference proceeding. One is that hard copy, book format, and the form soft copy. We call it this is the USB format or maybe the CD format. Nowadays we prefer the soft copy, so the CD format or the like USB format, something like that. And now comes the first question: that how long time do you need to think about any conference? At least 6 months to onward. At least 6 months to onward. So that is something you have to depend on that. And now come to the question is that what is the process of the conference paper submission? I don't want to discuss too much because more of the less you have some idea. I just like to discuss the main basic point so that you can recall that when you discuss the main discussion that how you can come up with the conference paper. You know, some of the conference they are asking to submit the abstract. Some of the conference they are asking to submit that what you call it. This is the initial full paper. So they are asking for the abstract, or they will ask for the initial full paper. So if any conference they ask for the abstract, the lots of paper will be submitted. But if they ask them to submit the full paper, the first version of full paper, then maybe you cannot get the like lots of papers. There is another reason. There are so many conferences they only invite the abstract. I always prefer my PhD scholars, my researchers, those who are working with me. You have to prefer that any conference to submit the initial paper, like full paper. It will be revised later on, because if the abstract submission, it is very difficult to understand the quality of the paper. And some of the conference they are asking to submit the paper through email. Some of the paper is online submission. Basically, online submission is modern technological advancement. So we prefer that online conference, online paper submission for the conference. And now, if you ask me, there's now due to the COVID-19, there's another version you are noticing, totally online conference, virtual conference. This is not the physical conference. But when you talk about the conference paper, we think about the physical conference paper, physical conference, face-to-face conference. But if you ask me the online conference, I see the more easier than a physical conference. And then comes you submit the paper, okay? So there, who review the paper? There will be the reviewers board. Reviewers, they will review the papers. And now comes who will be the reviewer? At least 5 international papers to become is required to become the reviewer. At least 5 international papers. It's not like that you claim that you have 100 papers. It's not like that, because they will determine that reviewer's quality from your publication. So they will search you. Usually, conference committee, they will search you in the Google. Your profile, they will search you. They like to see your working profile, researcher gate profile, or SCOPUS ID. They like to see your international profile, so that based on that they can decide whether you can capable to review the paper or not. Definitely, your expertise is another issue. Which area you can review the paper. There's a technical member in the conference. Basically, they're the responsible to create that reviewer. They are responsible who will be session chair. Basically, you understand the technical committee member is a very strong body. Is a strong body. So technical committee member will consist of reviewer, consist of session chair as well. So now you understand that any conference, the most important thing is that conference team, basically lead by the conference general chair or program chair, and then we conference secretariat. So what I said, any conference will lead by the conference chair. It will be the conference general chair or program chair, different name, or maybe the both will be there. And under them, there will be the conference secretariat. There is a very strong body, basically they are responsible. And this committee, they will create the technical committee member. Technical committee member will consist of the reviewer and session chair. And based on that, based on the specialization, reviewers will be assigned to review the paper. And then when the reviewer they review the papers, they have to modify based on the reviewer comments. Authors will modify based on the reviewer comments. Look very carefully. Reviewers, what is their job? Their job, they have to review the paper, and then authors, they will modify the paper based on the reviewer comments. Now, come to the point is that there is usually any conference there is a specified prescribed form where they have to mention clearly there is a few criteria. And for the criteria, the one decision whether the paper will be accepted, will be accepted as it is, accepted with the minor correction, accepted with the major correction, rejected, something like that. And when the reviewer, they will select any one option, they have to clarify why they like to accept it with the minor correction, why they like to accept it with the major correction, something like that. They have to clarify. And based on the reviewer comments, then the authors, they have to review the second time. We call it that final version or final manuscript. Sometimes we use the term the camera ready paper. So that means that author, they will prepare the camera ready version based on the reviewer comments. Okay. Again, they have to submit through online or email. Online is the latest process, and then email is an old version. And nowadays we prefer that online submission, and we like to prefer the online any kind of submission. So that means initial paper will be submitted through online, and again final manuscript will be submitted through online as well. Okay. This is more or less about the conference, how we can submit the paper, how we can select the conference. I can remind you the very important discussion is that how you can select the conference. So that's why you have to know this one, how you can determine the quality of the conference. How you could determine the quality of the conference. Basically, this is our main discussion to think about this one, quality of the conference. I like to request personally that you have to check very carefully who are the organizer of the conference. Who are the organizer of the conference? Say National University of Singapore. They are the organizer. So there is no question of the quality. IEEE. They are organizing the conference. So that is something quality conference. Okay. And then secondly, you have to check the general chair, program chair. I like to request. So we notice that this is the one general chair, the professor, something like that. this is a professor, then he can explore the general chair or program chair from the Google. He can explore the general chair, program chair from the Google. Whether if you notice that the program chair, general chair profile is very rich profile, and no question about the quality of the conference. They know how they will make it a more fruitful conference. You have to check the technical committee member, whether the technical committee member is a multi-country, multi-continent, multicultural. It is not from the one country, one university. This is not like that. Definitely, when you go for the review process, there is a one mandatory that it will be peer reviewed. You have to ensure that peer reviewed. This is a very important. It's mandatory. Blind review. We prefer the blind review. So who will determine this one? Basically, conference secretariat, conference team. They will ensure this one. And you have to check the review dates. If they any conference they are asking for the conference that they have the more than 6 months, at least that means good conference. But sometimes it happens any conference they can declare within 1 or 2 months. There's a question of the quality of the conference, and you have to check whether they are asking for the abstract full board submission. Abstract submission means something good, something not good. Full board submission is something good. Abstract submission, why is it not the good only abstract submission? Because maybe they're looking for to get the many participants. They're not bothering the quality. But full paper submission, definitely they are looking for to get the good quality paper. Abstract submission is only 200 words, 300 words. It's very easy to write. But if you need to say that write down the full paper 5 page 6 is not very easy to write. And nowadays any conference you have to check whether they have the affiliated journal or not. Whether they have the affiliated journal or not. Most of the conference nowadays, what they're doing, they have some affiliated journal, so they publish that the conference proceedings with the affiliated journal, but not the same paper. They are published as a conference selected conference paper in the journal with the 50% modification. Conference paper will be published in the journal. It could be like a SCOPUS Index journal or the Web of Science Index journal. But the journal, before going to submit the journal, they have to ensure that this paper not the same to the conference paper. So we have to choose the authors from the conference, and then you have to send the email from the journal. We can publish a paper in the journal. In that case, you have to modify the paper at least 50%. How you could modify? First of all, you have to modify the title of the paper. You have to modify that abstract. You have to modify that literature review. Add more literature. If you add the more literature, that means you have to add the that means the reference will be changed. You can do the if you do the survey early, you do the survey for 200 respondents. Now you can do the 250. Everything will be changed, and your conclusion must be changed. And just most important thing is the title should be the same. Conference paper, and now you like to submit this paper for the journal. You have to modify 50%. In that case, title must be changed. That is something what I said here. So that you have to, even the conference, they are affiliated with the journal, but there is some criteria. I already mentioned conference proceedings. You have to check this one whether the conference proceedings they have the ISBN number or not. If they have the ISBN number, that is something quality. And then you have to check that this is the first time conference or second time conference. If the first time conference, there's some question. It's not very good quality conference, maybe. But in second and third time, they're very active in the conference organizing. And definitely conference, they have to follow the publication ethics. It's very important. Publication ethics, publication malpractice statement. And finally, whether this conference indexing the proceeding conference proceedings. You remember proceedings hard copy of the conference. Whether it's indexing or not. So that is the way how you can determine the conference quality. I like to remind you again that we always mention this one, that your main target is that conference, as this is a very important for your academic profession. But make sure the quality of the conference should be there. Okay. Okay. Now come to the point, outline of a conference paper. You remember today what is our target? Our target conference abstract. So we like to design the conference abstract, but you have to confirm that before going to the abstract, we have to confirm the other part of the conference paper. Usually any conference outline, we have to think about the title must be there, abstract will be there, and then introduction, judge review or related works, methodology, model development, theory development, and then presentation data, data analysis, discussion on model evaluation, conclusion as well, and finally the reference. Okay, so first of all, what I said that you have to think about the conference. In order to think about the conference, you have to think about the conference template. Every conference they have a conference template. So what I said that at first you have to search the conference from the Google. So you got the conference from the Google. Okay. So after searching the Google, you got the one conference. That's fine. Now you are planning to submit the paper. So first of all, you have to download the conference template from the conference site. You have to download the conference template from the conference site, and you have to use that template. Because some of them, what they are doing, they are creating a new template. No need. If you know the conference, they have the conference template. I suggest you personally go to the conference template directly, and you have to use that one. And now come to the point: is it necessary to write the all section? I would say no. It is not necessary to write the all sections. If you have the survey, then you can mention data analysis. If you don't have the survey, no need to mention the data analysis. If you have a model, then you can mention the section 4, model development. If you don't have the model, no need to mention the section 4. So what I said that whether you have the model, whether you are doing the survey, based on that you can design this one. I would say this is one kind of guideline, but it is not necessary to apply this whole outline. So let us start in this way. First of all, the title. I always mention that when you go for the conference, the best option is that you have to use the title Professional Scientific Academic Language. The title of the conference should be the Professional Scientific Academic Language. And definitely within the 10 to 12 words. It is not like the too much words. Nowadays we notice that there is some few conferences, the number of words title is at 20 words, 24 words. It's too much. The title should be the very professional, scientific, academic language. In order to come up with any kind of title of the conference paper, I suggest that you can do one thing. You can check any kind of previous conference proceedings. Usually conference proceedings, they have lots of title. Choose the one. This is the way how you can design. So you can say the impact study, impact analysis. If you say empirical study, exploratory study, exploratory research. If you say, say embedding, the embedding means you have to understand there's some connectivity. You have to use this kind of word. So that you understand, oh, this is a very good research term. And I suggest you that you should not choose the title at first. You shouldn't go for any kind of title at first. At first, you have to choose a few titles, then you have to rethink, brainstorm to come up with the final title. What I say? At first, you have to choose a few titles, then rethink by yourself, brainstorm with your co-authors, and come up with the final title. And I suggest you that you should come to the final title end of the paper. At first, you design the one paper, you can design the few titles, then let us finish the whole paper, then again you come to the title, and then you can decide which is the best title. So you have to select the few titles at first, then you have to come to the best title. Some of the example we mentioned here. I suggest you that when you do the conference, it is better to try to about the name of organization, name of country in the conference proceedings. Say suppose you know that the International Conference of Business and Management, International Conference of Economics, Business and Management. Say suppose. So I suggest you that you understand the business management area you have to focus. But in the title of the conference paper, you mentioned about a study on say a study on the Johor, Malaysia, or a study on the Chennai, India. So that means you like to focus Johor Bahru, you like to focus the Chennai. So it's a limited scope. And our main target, we have to get lots of audiences. participants. Those who review the paper, this will talk to you. So that's why we prefer this one. It is a better option. It is a better option is that no need to mention any kind of organization, country name as a title in the conference. Yeah, you can write down the organization name or country name inside the paper. You can write down in the abstract, no problem. But you should not write this one. You should not write this one in the title of the conference. If you say no, I would like to focus this one. Okay, no problem. You can write down the abstract. You just mention a case study. But if you mention specifically the case study, which case study? The problem is that some of the audiences, they do not like this paper. They think that, oh, this is from Chennai, this is from the Johor or Malaysia. Oh, we don't want to read. Then you can get the low number of the audiences. And nowadays there's another style is going on. Even the title. In the title, what they're doing, they're using that question. The research question. Research question. So sometimes they are putting the research question in the title. They are putting the research question in the title. And now if you ask my opinion, I say, it's okay. It's okay. We are accepting. That's not the matter. We are accepting. But if you ask me that if you compare the professional scientific academic language in the title and then question mark in the title, which one do you prefer? I prefer the professional and scientific academic language rather than question mark. Because question mark, lots of things will come up. Why they are putting the research question in the title? There are some things. When I'm talking something, I just like to remind you again. I think you know that already. I organize many conferences in the world, and not only that, I deliver the keynote speaker in the many international conferences as a keynote speaker. So I have been involved with the organizing committee member, technical committee member in the many conferences, so for a long time. And so that's why I said my opinion means that you have to think of this is the opinion from the technical committee member of many conferences. So this is from the expert's opinion. If you write down the research question in the title, no problem. But if you ask me the quality of the title, I would say that better that if you use the professional scientific academic language rather than research question. You know that our next one is that abstract, which is very important for today. As it is very important, so I don't want to discuss now. I'd like to discuss about the abstract at the last. When you look very carefully, when you see any conference paper, you always see at first that abstract. But very interesting is that we never write the abstract first. We always writing the abstract the last. We always writing the abstract the last. So I like to come up the abstract at the last. So in the abstract will consist of the few components, like that there will be the rationale, and there will be the objectives, there will be the what type of study, type of data, sampling procedures, finding of the study, novelties and contribution of the paper, something like that, find the keywords. I again remind you, we'll come back to the abstract end of the session. Okay. And before that, I just remind you one issue is that, abstract is the glamour of the conference paper. Abstract is the glamour of the conference paper. If you ask me the glamour, I say this is a conference. It's very interesting thing is that abstract is the glamour of the conference paper. So now come to the question, how you can show yourself. So you like to show your glamour, right? Same thing. The conference. Abstract is the glamour of the conference paper. And you know that I just give the one tips. Many professors, they are working in the many conferences as technical committee members, so they have to review the paper. Sometimes they couldn't get enough time. So they have to review the abstract at first. If the abstract is well written, then they have to go to the insight. If the abstract is well presented, then they'll go to the insight. If it's not the well written, well presented, they don't go to the insight. So there is a tricky process that how you could design your abstract more fruitful. And basically, that is our main discussion for today. Okay. So I'll come back to the abstract again, end of the session. Okay. we are talking about the conference. Say we are talking about the one conference. Say it's IEEE conference, and now come to the introduction. You know that what I said earlier in the conference. Basically, they have the conference template, and the conference template they have the page limitation. They have a page number limitation. Say suppose one conference 5 pages or 6 pages, maximum the 7 pages. So you understand you have to prepare the paper in the 5 to 7 pages. Say. Most of the conference they mention the limitation of the number of pages or number of words. So when you design the paper, conference paper, you have to make sure that we have to fulfill that the limitation of the page number, limitation of words. First of all, in the introduction, there will be the rationale. We are talking about the conference paper introduction. So you have to mention the rationale. No need to mention the different subtitle. What I said, the rationale, is the objective, significance, scope, structure. No need to mention. What you can do, you just write down the paragraph. 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph, something like that. Or maximum, you can write down 1.1, 1.2, something like that. Okay. So first of all, come to here. Rationale, general background. Basically, there is something you have to talk about this one. Your study. Say you're designing the one paper. What kind of paper? Say an empirical study on education supply chain management. So general background, what I said the title, an empirical study on education supply chain management. So general background will be your empirical study of education supply chain management. So you have to mention what is supply chain management, or what is the significance of the education supply chain management, something like that. General background. But again, it's conference, not many things, just one paragraph, maximum 2 paragraphs. Then you have to mention the objectives. I again remind you, in the conference we have the page limitation, so you have to make sure this one. This is the objective. You remember in the childhood you have written that the objective, and that time your objective written the objective styles, and now in conference paper objective style is not the same. I would say that you have to use some research term here. What kind of, like analyze, explore, investigate, illustrate, demonstrate, something like that. You should mention about this one: relationship, comparative study, review paper, literature review, something like that. You have to mention that, develop, construct the model, something like that. So what I said, that look very carefully. The term you are using. We are using the one term we call it academic writing. We have to give the more concentration to the academic writing. Hopefully we couldn't get enough time today. We'll discuss the academic writing in the 4th day. We'll discuss the academic writing. That time I'll show you some examples. So in the objective, you have to use the academic writing, some research term. You have to use it. And then you have to mention the significance. Why your topics, why your title will be significant. Why your topics, why your title will be significant. You have to explain it. Again, make sure that one paragraph. So you cannot write a many paragraph. Very simple. This is a conference paper. And then scope. This scope could come up from your population, from your sample, maybe what kind of research we are doing, the variables, limitations, something like that. So what I said, that the scope will come up from your population. So let's check your population size, your sample size, what kind of research you are doing. You have in the model how many variables are there, and in the you are doing the research, what kind of limitation is there. So it is the part of the scope. So try to emphasize these few comments on that. Population, sample, what kind of research, variables, limitation, something like that. And the last paragraph of the conference introduction, that will be the structure of the paper. Basically, here you have to mention the outline of the next sections of the paper. Means this is a first section, introduction. The next section, literature review, what is the content of the literature review, then methodology, then discussion, then conclusion. So you assume that there is a new person, he or she has no idea of the research paper or conference paper. If anybody reads the paper, they try to understand what is happening in the next few sections. So you have to provide the guidelines for the outlines of the next sections. Okay. There are few something like statement of problems, research question, objective and hypothesis. I can repeat. Statement of problems, research question, objective, hypothesis. These four are correlated. These four are correlated. As they are correlated, so no need to write the all. As they are correlated, no need to write the all. Say, I suggest you, as it is we have page limitation, then you can write only just objectives. You can write only just objective. No need to write the statement of problems, no need to write just question, no need to write hypothesis here. Only just you can write the objectives. That is some of the contents you have to think in the introduction design. Come to the next section, literature review. Literature review, related works. Sorry, Jajila, are you there? Can you take the question after end of the session today, or
Yeah, sure.
or you can take the question in the middle stage?
We'll take it at the end, sir.
Okay. And they will ask the question by the face-to-face, or they'll ask the question by written?
They can write us the questions in the chat box and we'll reply to them at the end.
Okay. So you are getting any question at this stage?
Yes, we have got some.
Some question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should keep the time. How long time we should keep for the question and answer session?
We'll keep the last 10 minutes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what I said that this is the second section, literature review, related works and conference. So when you design the conference paper, you just remember a literature review, you cannot extend many pages. So you have to finish within 1 or 2 pages. And I suggest that based on the number, if the 5 pages, then literature review not more than 1 page. So it will be like the half of the 1 page, or maybe the quarter part, third and 3/4 of the pages will continue of the literature review. And in that literature review, there will be a few subsections. It is not necessary to write the theory related to literature review study, but when you design the paragraph, you have to think, I am designing the literature review of this conference paper by this way. The first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph. So there is some link up. Again, I use the term, this is academic writing. There is some of the sequence of flow of sequence in the writing. So you have to try to understand and mention about the literature review, consider the theory, related literature review, and then finally the previous study. So let us start. Say you like to do the research on supply chain management in the hospital. So we call it hospital supply chain management. Okay. So now you like to do the literature review, construct literature review. How do you do that? First of all, the theory. You have to explore. What I say, you like to do the research on the hospital supply chain management. So hospital is the service industry. Supply chain management in one area. So what is the meaning? You like to apply that supply chain management in the hospital, in the service industry. So the first thing, your first job, you have to write first paragraph. Say definition of supply chain management, or main concept of supply chain management, or maybe the theory of supply chain management. What is supply chain management? What is the meaning of supply chain management? This is for the one paragraph. See, the conference paper, the literature review, one paragraph will consider the theory. If you have a space, then maybe 2 paragraphs. It depends. You have to check that how you can design this. The secondly, related review literature. As I said earlier, your target point is supply chain management in the hospital, and hospital is representing the one service industry. So now you can manage supply chain management in the service industry. A related review literature. So your main target is the hospital, but you just check. Is there any kind of research papers you have on the service industry, supply chain management service industry? Maybe supply chain management in the education supply chain, maybe supply chain management in the tourism industry supply chain, or supply chain management in the suppose the banking industry, all of the service industry. You like to find out supply chain management in the service industry. So it means that you like to signify, yes, we are in the right track. As we have the research on the service industry, that's why you like to work on the hospital supply chain management. And then come to the next one. This is the next one, the previous study. Try to find any specific research on hospital supply chain management. Any specific research. Hospital supply chain management. So you are getting the two papers on hospital supply chain management. One for the, there is one researcher in the Nigeria. They are working the supply chain management in the private hospital. Supply chain management in the private hospital in Nigeria. Supply chain management in the private hospital in Nigeria. And then you got the another paper, supply chain management in the public hospital, government hospital in Chennai. You got the two papers, supply chain management, private hospital in the Nigeria, management in the public hospital. So two previous studies, just write down. What you can write down, no need to write many things. Like this is a conference paper, page limitation. You just draw the figure if you have, or you just mention their findings, something like that. Means the touching, some touching point about the supply chain management in hospital. Did you see the one diagram here? This is a pyramid. This is the reverse version, 3 to 1. Basically, 3 is a theory. Basically, 3 is a theory, 2 is the related review literature, and 1 is the previous study. 1 is the previous study. So what I said here, that at first the theory, secondly related review literature, and thirdly the previous study. Okay. And you know, if you ask me now, sir, then what is our target, our destination? Our destination is that this one, vertex. This one. So if you design the 3 to 1, we can come to the like the vertex, this one. That is our target. So what I mentioned here, that is our target to come up that vertex. So if you design in this way, that theory, related review literature, and previous study, it means that you are designing that well recognized literature review. Well recognized literature review. But it's very interesting thing is that, if you design in this way, the literature review, paper will be accepted, no doubt. But there is another problem, is that this is a plagiarism issue. There is another problem, the plagiarism issue. And as you are taking some of the contents from the previous papers, previous authors, so there is a plagiarism issue. So now come to the question. I think you know the plagiarism, right? So how you can avoid the plagiarism? And most of the cases, very interesting is that when you're designing the conference, you can see most of the plagiarism rate, similarity index is higher than any other section if you compare literature review. Literature review, similarity index will be very high. Okay. And so this is the question, that how you can reduce this similarity index. First of all, you have to use the rewording. Rewording. Synonyms, thesaurus. So at first you have to copy and paste. Then you have to reword by using the synonyms and thesaurus. I prefer the thesaurus rather than synonym. Sometimes you can change the word, but you also change the meaning. So it is not acceptable. Okay. And secondly, you have to check that tense and voice. Secondly, you have to check the tense and voice. We know that suppose they have to they explain in the present tense. So now you have to convert to the past tense. They mention that active voice. You have to convert to the passive voice. I again remind you. At first, you have to copy and paste. Then you have to try to apply the rewordings, synonyms, or the thesaurus, or you can apply the tense. Or finally, you can do one thing: paraphrasing. We always mention that paraphrasing is the best option. Rewrite the whole paragraph. You should rewrite the whole paragraph. So it is not very easy. So you have to read the one paragraph and then you have to rewrite. So you call it paraphrasing. Okay. So that is the way how you can reduce the plagiarism. You know, nowadays we have lots of software, translating software, authenticate software. If you use the software, then we can explore that use similarity index. So we call it basically ethics in research, originality research. And what I said that if you use that software, you can find out the similarity index, and that is one of the target how you can reduce the similarity index. That's why I try to explain how you can reduce the similarity index. Okay. So this is a literature review. I just again remind you that theory, related literature, and then previous study. By this one, you have to show that why you are doing this research, so the audiences they can understand what is significant of our research. Okay. Basically, it's a methodology. This is the core of the research. Basically, here you have to mention. Suppose you are producing this paper, conference paper, based on the some research, right? It could be exploratory research, descriptive research, causal research. So you have to explain. Is the quality or quantity research you have to explain, or maybe this is survey research technique. So this is that you have to mention. Means what type of research you are doing here. You have to explain it. Okay. Anyhow, you can mention exploratory research. You can mention basic research, or you can mention the quantity research. No problem. But somehow you have to mention that what type of research you are doing. And then hypothesis. I again remind you again that if you have the hypothesis, then you can mention here. If you don't have the hypothesis, no need to mention here. So come to the easy way to understand. It is not necessary that we have to think about the hypothesis. Yes, if you do the survey, then you can mention the hypothesis. If you don't have the survey, then I suggest you no need to write the hypothesis. And what I mentioned earlier, there are 4 things that are correlated: statement of problems, research question, objectives, and hypothesis. They are correlated. So if you have the plan to write the hypothesis, definitely you have to write from the research question, and based on that you have to decide to how you can write the null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis. Again, I remind you, it is not the mandatory. It depends whether you have the research question, whether you are doing the survey, then you have to think about this hypothesis. I don't want to talk about that issue that under the null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis, there are 2 types of tests: one tail test and 2 tail test. I just want the main key point that you have tried to understand the null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis, how you can define this one. Then under this one, you have to decide one tail test and 2 tail test. Okay. And then operationalization of variables. You have to check. You have a model. Say this is one example. You have a model, and now in the model you have to check how many variables you have, whether you have the dependent or independent variables you have. Okay, so that you can explain that one. Or you are using the operational component. You are using the questionnaire. What type of question you are using? 5-point like a scale, 7-point like a scale, 9-point like a scale you have. Simple attitude scale you have. So you have to mention. Okay. You are writing the one conference paper, you have to mention how you can design this operational component. and then measurement scale, nominal, ordinal, interval, ratios clear to mention. Some of the point what I said that in methodology part. Then come to the next one, the respondents. How you can mention this one? I again remind you that what I discussed, if you cover everything in the conference paper, that is excellent paper. Your paper must be accepted. And on the other hand, even if you not cover everything, no problem. Your paper could be accepted. And what I said today, the reviewer they mentioned something like a paper accepted as it is, paper accepted with minor revision, paper accepted with the major revision, and paper rejected. There are 4 options I mentioned, but there is some of the conference, there are 5 options, 6 options. So it depends. You have to check this. That's why I said whether you can design the paper in this way or not. Based on that, your paper will be accepted or rejected. So now come to the point how you can define the sample size. Basically, you can define the sample size by the 3 way. One is that formula. Again, if you like to apply the formula, then there is a question: is that there are 2 types of formula. One is that for known population and for unknown population. So first of all, you have to decide whether your population is known and unknown. Whether your population is known and unknown. And based on that, you have to design this one, that which formula you can apply. Second option is the table. Second option is the table. And third option is the reference. I'll discuss the table in the next slides, but reference I mentioned that, especially the PhD research, or is there any kind of special type of research, that we can apply the reference. What is the real practices earlier we did, based on we can come to the decision. And then table is that there is another way you can design that sample size based on the table. You can see the thermodynamic table. If you look very carefully, this table, there is one condition that the population will be known. The population will be known. Okay. I think you can see this one, say 5,000 population. 3%, 5%, 7%, 10%. The 5,000 population means 3% 909. Then 5% 370. And then 7% 196. Okay, and then 10% 98. Okay. Look very carefully, 5%, 3%, 7%, 10%. Among this all, 5% range of error is more acceptable. More acceptable. But now comes the question, what is the advantage of this table? Advantage is that, say, you are doing the own research, a population size is 5,000. And you are collecting the number of respondents 380. So if I ask you, how did you collect this number of respondents? Why did you collect this number of respondents? Are you sure this number of respondents are sufficient to come up with a decision? If they say, then you have to reply. And how did you reply this one? Look, if you say, okay, our population is 5,000, and we are using that 380 respondents, we are getting this number because if we use the thorough table, the 5%, if you use the 5% range of error, then we have to take 370, 380, so it's acceptable. The same thing, 98. Suddenly you are taking the only just 100 respondents, only 100. And then somebody there asking you, would you please clarify why you are taking this only 100 respondents? Is it the sufficient number to come with the decision? Then you have to, according to the 10% range of error, we can take the 98% number of response, 98 sample size. Look very carefully. Means that is the advantage of the thorough table. if any, you have that, say, if you have this table, if you know the population size, then easily you can come up with a decision. How many responses do you need? So now this is very important table. I like to remind you again. In future, you can apply this one. Okay, and it is very effective and highly acceptable. And then comes the next one: sampling procedures. Basically, you have to think about the probability, non-probability sampling. Again, I do not want to talk here. I am not sure that paper discussion they discuss or not. But just as this main key point. Again, if the known population, then is a probability sampling. Unknown population, non-probability sampling. At first, you have to come to the decision whether it is a probability sampling or non-probability sampling. How can come to decision? You can come to decision from that one, known and unknown population. Whether it is a known and unknown population. Based on that, you can come to the decision. And under the probability sampling, under the non-probability sampling, there are a few subcategories. Say under the non-probability sampling, you have the combination sampling, judgment sampling, quarter sampling, snowball sampling. Multi-series sampling. You know, I'm involved with the many conferences I already mentioned. So I remember that when I review the papers as a, what do you call, technical member or reviewer, I always try to find out whether they are mentioning about the known and unknown population, whether they are mentioning the probability non-probability sampling. And you know, I noticed sometimes they mention unknown population, but they're also mentioning we are using the symbol random sampling. Totally opposite. That's why you have to give the more consideration on that one. That what type of sampling procedure we are applying based on the way we design our sampling procedure. So in that case, your known and unknown population could help you. Okay. Again, I remind you, it is not the important that you are doing the wrong thing. Even if you don't want to write down the sampling procedure, no problem. Use a conference paper. What I said that non-probability sampling and probability sampling, I don't want to discuss in details. You can read by yourself. There's some of the main classification we discussed here. I would say that no need to discuss at this moment, but in future, just remember, if you like to clarify on the probability sampling, you have to clarify the known and unknown population first, then you have to go to there. Okay, data collection. Basically, you try to understand this one, that this is the data collection part. And I would say that this is important in that sense. Based on that, you have to decide something. What is this? Say, you have to decide this one, whether you are using the primary data or secondary data. What I said, you have to decide this one, whether you like to apply the primary data or secondary data. That is the way that how you can come to the decision. Okay. I just remind you again. You know that I always mention this one, that if you do the secondary data, then your conference paper presentation. If you do the primary data, then conference paper presentation will not be the same. So that's why I say that this is very important. Whether you are using the primary data or secondary data, I think you know that secondary data means already existing. So now you like to use this one, like conference paper, journal paper, book chapter. And primary data means survey. You have to do the survey directly. So whether you are doing the survey or not, you know that based on the DFP design. So whatever you mention, you have to note it down, primary data, secondary data. And now come to the question is that how about our, if you ask me that, how about our standard number of respondents? You know, if you do the PhD and if you join the conference, the part of your PhD, then I suggest you that you have to think the number of respondents will be the 400 plus. There is a reason. You remember earlier I used the Taro-Yaman table. Even if you go to the Taro-Yaman table, you can see that why you have to use that 400 plus respondents. So in that case, you have to mention that why you are using the foreign plus respondents. Okay. Or if you use the secondary data, you have to mention clearly that why you are using the secondary data and from where you are using this, how you are collecting this data, why you did it. Something you have to mention clearly. Even if you mention like to use that open access, you have to mention that from which open access you are using. You have to clarify. Okay, so you have done our methodology part. This is a very important part. We did it, and then model and theory development. Basically, I just remind you again. Say I just say this way: you are doing the PhD. So first year of your PhD, you must join the international conference. At that time, maybe there is a based on the secondary data. Based on the secondary data, based on the survey, you have to write. Based on secondary data, based on the secondary data, you have to write. So you just check the journal paper, conference, or book chapter. You can prepare. Or if you do the survey, the based on that you have to prepare the paper. Two things. And now, if you have a model, then this section will be important. If you don't have the model, no need this section. You got my point? I can remind you. So whether you have the model or not, based on the every design, this section. Theoretical framework. Basically, theoretical frameworks works means previous works. Theoretical frameworks means previous works. Say what I said earlier, hospital supply chain management. You got the two paper, one paper in that supply chain management in the Nigeria, based on the private hospital, another in that based on the Chennai, another paper you got it, supply chain management in the public hospital in Chennai. Two paper. And based on that, now you have to design your own paper, own model, called conceptual model. Theoretical framework means previous works. So you can write down here two. Supply chain management in the Nigeria, based on the private hospital. Supply chain management in the Chennai, India, based on the public hospital. You can see this in it. So that would be your theoretical framework. Then how about your conceptual framework? Conceptual framework will be, okay, you are designing the supply chain management model for the hospital, but it is not the like for any case study. It is not like for the public hospital, private hospital. Any hospital they can apply, and also not based on any country. I said earlier Nigeria, China, India, but this is not in general. So you're designing the model in general model. So that is significant of your research. That's the framework. And then conceptual framework is your own work, original work. Okay. You can do this one. You can suppose you have the existing model. Now you can modify the model, or you can edit the model. You can write down, or maybe you can revise the theory. You can revise the existing theory or reposition the theory. I just like to provide another example so you can understand. Say, during my PhD time, I developed our own model. That was the educational supply chain management model, ITESC model, Integrated Tertiary Educational Supply Chain Management model. So that was the conceptual model, conceptual framework. I developed this model before the previous two models. One is that Professor O'Brien and Kenneth, he did the one research on education supply chain, but he just did the one survey, no model, only survey. No model is there, that is the only limitation. And then 2007, Professor Lau, he developed another model, education supply chain management model, but he developed the model based on the City University of Hong Kong. He developed the model based on the City University of Hong Kong. So that is the case study. Look very carefully. That was the case study. Based on these two models, then I designed the model ITESC model. Based on these two models, I designed the model ITESC model, Integrated Tertiary Supply Chain Management model. So that is the two models, O'Brien and Canning, then Professor Lau, the theoretical framework, and my model is the conceptual model. And then after my PhD in 2009, now there are few PhD based on this model. And very interesting thing, one of my PhD student, he finished his PhD in 2018 under my supervision, and he worked on the education supply chain management. But what he did, he applied my model, and then he did the one sustainable education supply chain management model for the Malaysian universities. So look very carefully. Now he used my model, ITESA model, as a theoretical framework, and based on that, he developed a new model, conceptual framework. There is a sustainable educational supply chain management model for the Malaysian universities. That is something what I said, that you have to focus that the theoretical framework, then you have to mention the conceptual framework. Now you can ask me why I am focusing the theoretical framework. Without the theoretical framework, you cannot write the conceptual framework. You can design the conceptual framework. Without the theoretical framework, if you design that conceptual framework, without the theoretical framework, then the question will be there. How did you get this model? If you say I got this model from my brain, from my mind, from my thinking, it's not acceptable. So that's why I like to focus that what is available in the framework or model, anything, and based on that you have to design. You have to work on that. Okay. So I can remind you, this section is that important. If there is no model, if there is a model, then you have to write down this one. This is basically data analysis and discussion part. Basically, I already mentioned that if you use that secondary data, like conference proceeding, journal book, chapter books, then you just mention the discussion, no decision analysis. But if you do the survey, on SPSS, if you do analyze the survey on SPSS or maybe structure selection modeling, you are using that different technical structure modeling, MOS, list rail, PLS, something like that. Then you have to do the data analysis part. So data analysis part depends whether you apply the primary data or secondary data. If it is only just secondary data, just discussion. If the primary data, then you have to apply the data analysis. And I suggest that you should apply that structuration modeling or something like that, rather than SPSS or something. SPSS is the old statistical tools. Okay. And then you have to mention about the pre-test, pilot test, and it could be the expert's opinion. And the pre-test or pilot test, it will be the expert opinion. And if you ask a number of respondents, it will be 30 plus, something like that. Okay. And reliability analysis, you can apply the convex alpha value. You can apply for this one. And then second part, what I said that this is what I mentioned, that expert's opinion. This is a pilot test, pre-test. If you don't have, no need to write down there. So then come to the our full survey questionnaire. What I said at first, that the pre-test, pilot test, only that's based on 34 respondents. The second one is that the total full survey questionnaire, you have 300 or 400 respondents. Based on that, you can design this one. You have to mention the graphical or tabular presentation. You can show the demographic data. Then you have to mention the discrete analysis, include frequency, arithmetic mean, percentage, standard deviation, something like that. This is called discrete analysis. And then inferential analysis, basically we can use the inferential analysis if you have hypothesis. So you will get the answer earlier. Whether you have the hypothesis or not, then you can design the inferential analysis. And what I said earlier, hypothesis, they have a relation with that one tail test, two tail test. What is the one tail test, two tail test? Known and unknown population. Okay. So whether you like to focus the inferential analysis or not depends on you. But discrete analysis is the basic one. Discrete analysis is the basic one. Definitely you must use the discrete analysis. But inferential analysis, it depends. If you have hypothesis, you have to show. If there is no hypothesis, you don't need to show. I few minutes before I mentioned this one, stack collection modeling. I suggest you that we have to use the stack collection modeling. You can apply that MOS, Listrel, or PLS. Okay, anyone you can apply. And you know that if you ask me that why we like to focus on this one, stack collection modeling, because we like to get the latest information, latest masses. But what I mentioned here, if you use the SPSS, you can apply, not the up to the standard nowadays. So that's why move to the stack collection model. Okay. Again, I remind you, if you have the survey, then data analysis will be there. If there is no survey, only just based on the second data, conference paper, journal book chapter, this discussion. Make sure that we are constructing the conference paper, so you have to check the number of pages. If you spend the data analysis 3 pages, it's very difficult. So you can reduce the content for the data analysis part. Sorry. What I said that we are now in the conclusion stage. This is something you have to check very carefully. You know, I always mention that if you are the readers, you are the young scholar. So now you like to review the one paper, conference paper. How you can review? You can start the review at first the abstract, and then you have to review the conclusion. If you review the abstract, but it is not the up to the standard, or it is not the within your scope, leave it. If you think there is a good abstract, I like it, I can read it, then go to the conclusion. This one. So conclusion will consist of the summary of findings. Findings will be there. And you just remember these findings will come up from your research question. So check your question, or if you have hypothesis. Then you have to mention the conclusion. In the conclusion, you remember that there will be no statistical language. In the conclusion, there will be no statistical language. It should be the academic language. Say, if I say, Mr. X is a good relation to Mr. Y at 0.001 significant level two-tailed test. Mr. X is a good relation to Mr. Y as 0.001 significant level two-tailed test. Then I think nobody can understand if they don't have the knowledge on a species. They don't have the knowledge on the statistical analysis. Okay. On the other hand, if you just mention very simply, Mr. X is a good relation to Mr. Y, academic language. And then you have to mention the recommendation. If you have the recommendation, basically what you say, if you have the model, then you can mention the specific suggestion, recommendation. That is a specific suggestion or recommendation for the academician, for the practitioners as well. And for the study, it is not necessary to write the suppose 6.1, summary 6.2, recommendation 6.3 for the study. No problem, no need to write this. You just write down the paragraph. Or you can write down the summary 6.1, summary of findings, 6.2, recommendation 6.3 for the study, no problem. So recommendation will come up from your hypothesis. Recommendation will come up from your methodology, and you can mention some specific suggestions for academician and practitioner. And I always mention further study, it will come up from your limitations. So check your limitations. And now if I ask you, do you have any limitation? If you say, I don't have any limitation, this is another limitation. You couldn't understand the limitation. Your limitation will come up from suppose your boundary. Say you are using that, you are doing the research, you are taking that all kind of secondary data. You are using all secondary data from the conference proceedings, no journal paper, no book chapter. It is the one weakness. It is our limitation. So you can mention that this limitation could be overcome in future by adding the lots of authors' papers in this study. Or maybe what I said that suppose you're talking for the study. You are taking the one survey, your number responded 100. You are taking. Is it okay? Sufficient? No. So you have to mention it will be the further study if you take the more number of respondents. So you have to check your limitation, from there you have to write down the further study. Okay. In the conclusion, you have to mention another one thing. What is the contribution of your paper? You're writing the conference paper, then now you have to write down specifically what is the contribution of this conference paper. Is a part of the conclusion. What is the contribution of your conference paper? You have to write down in the conclusion. Okay, there is a some discussion on the further study. And then reference, basically you can apply any reference style. There is lots of reference style. APA style, number reference style, Harvard style, Vancouver style, lots of style. So which one you can apply? I suggest you that you can go to the conference template. What reference style they are using, you have to use that. Okay. I again remind you, your target is that conference, accepted the paper in the conference. So follow the conference template. What type of references style they are applying. So you have to use that one. That's all. And then there is a two reference style. One is the APA, American Psychological Association System, and the second the number reference style. Anyone you can apply. But if you ask me which one is the better, I would say the number reference. And personally, I prefer the number reference style. Okay. And I think you know that this one in-text citation inside of the paper. And what is the reference that are available, and the name of publication, and you have to mention the name of publication, like conference or journal paper, but it will be available in the reference citation. So in-text citation inside the paper and reference citation at the last. Okay. I just remind you the name of publication, we prefer that book chapter, journal, even rather than conference. So, but if you use the conference proceedings here, the reference, no problem. We strongly discourage to apply the website address. Strongly discourage. But if you like to apply the conference proceedings, I suggest you that you can write down that also that ISBN number if they have. So you choose the conference proceedings; those have the ISBN number. Number one. Number two, we discuss to use that website address. But if you use the website, I suggest you to write down that date of browsing. Date of browsing is very important. Okay, because some of the websites they always change. Some of the websites they are always changing their site. That is a dynamic page. They always change the contents. So when you apply that any kind of website address, you must use the date of browsing. Okay, I can remind you anyone reference you can apply, but you have to make sure that what is the journal, what is your conference template, and you have to use that one. Okay, so now you go back to our abstract. Do you remember that our abstract? Yes. So let us start our abstract. First of all, what I said earlier, the title will be the professional academic language. It should be in the brief, within 100 to 200 words. Again, I suggest you go back to the conference template, check it. You know, what is our target? After the whole discussion, we almost discussed the 1 or 30 minutes. Our main target, how we can confirm that the construction of the abstract, and that must be accepted. If they allow only the abstract, you just write down the abstract. But what is the guarantee is that whether your paper will be accepted or whether your abstract will be accepted, that is our target for today. We have to design that kind of conference so that the paper will be accepted. So first of all, the professional academic language. I think I mentioned earlier, it is very important when you design that abstract, because that you have to ensure this kind of academic language. And number of words, I suggest you that you can check the template. And the rationale, very brief. I would say one sentence. One sentence. Just one sentence. How you can write it down. You have to mention the main objective. So in the main objective, you have to mention the study, present, demonstrate, illustrate, and compensate, depict, highlight. You have to mention conceptual model, literature review, something like that. Means main objective. No need to mention many objective, main objective. And what type of study, like descriptive research, exploratory research, causal research, quality contribution. Means anyhow you have to explain. You have to mention type of data, whether you are applying the type primary data, secondary data. You remember the primary data means survey, secondary data means your existing papers if you use. And then sample size, number of respondents. Number of respondents. I suggest you, if in the number of respondents more than 300, then you can write down here. If the number of respondents is like only 50 or 60, 70, no need to write down here number of respondents. Sampling procedures, you have to mention the probability number of sampling. If you are confirmed, and then based on that you have to mention clearly. But again, I remind you, if you are not confirmed, no need to write down this. And the statistical tools, if you apply the stack selection modeling SAM technique, definitely you have to mention here. But I suggest you do not write down that any kind of software name like MOS, listed, PLS, no need to write. Findings of the study, you have to mention main findings of the study, learning outcomes of the study. There is many findings, but we have to come up with the main findings. And then novelty is the contribution of the paper. You have to mention the contribution of the paper, and this contribution towards the society, towards your family members, whatever you say. It means, you see, look very carefully. And suppose if you ask you, what is the contribution in your family? So you have to think how you are contribute to the family members. Come to the point. What is the contribution of your paper? So you have to mention how you can create the contribution by your paper to the society. So your ultimate target is society. So now come to the point. You can ask what is the contribution of your paper, but you couldn't understand that how I could contribute to the society. It's very interesting question. Come up, very easy. You think, say, you work on supply chain management for the hospital. So you need to ask you what is the contribution of your paper. You think how I can contribute to society. Say, we just as the hospital is a part of the service industry. So you are designing the model for the service industry. So service industry is a part of the society. When you design any model, supply chain management model for the hospital, any hospital, private or public hospital, they can use it. So you are contributing to the society by developing that supply chain management model for the hospital. Okay, if you think that no, it's not as strong, then no problem. Come to another example. You are producing the paper supply chain management for the hospital. This is a research paper, right? So maybe in future, the prospective researcher, they will use your paper as a reference. What is that? That is a contribution for the research. There is a contribution for the prospective researchers. Oh, okay. Or you have a model. Now you can suggest. Okay, maybe this model could be applicable in the industry. What is that? Real life application. Real life application for the corporates. So what is the contribution for the corporates, for the practitioners? So what I mentioned, that contribution, I started by the family contribution. So one need to ask you, what is your contribution to your family? So you have to think how you can do the contribution to your family. Same thing, what is the contribution of your paper? You have to think how you can contribute to the prospective researchers, or maybe the practitioners, or maybe the directly society. If you work for the say, population, or if you work for the environment, directly contribute to the society. If you could write down the contribution of your conference paper in the abstract, I can ensure that your paper must be accepted. But most of the cases, most of the researchers, they couldn't write. So now, basically, if I ask what is your contribution, nothing. I couldn't get sir any contribution. Then okay. You just write down. This study unlocks the further frontiers for the prospective researchers in the field of that area of research. I can repeat. You're doing the research, right? So just write it in this way. This research unlocks the further frontiers for the prospective researchers in that area. Say supply chain management area, or maybe operation management area, or maybe the artificial intelligence area. Because you unlock the further frontiers. Unlock the further frontiers for the prospective researchers. And that is something, what is the contribution of research? And in the abstract, you have to also mention the keywords, so like 3 to 4 keywords. The keywords is very important. Your keywords is very important because some people, when if they search the papers from the Google Scholar, they will use the keyword. If that keyword is similar to your keyword, then your paper will come out. So how you can design the keywords? You have to check how the number of words are available, which ones are mostly used, which keywords you use many times. So that is your keywords for the conference paper. So I just remind you again, our main target for today evening, how can construct the abstracts. So like I like to remind you, the main key point, you have to mention that all kind of academic language, no statistical language in the abstract, no statistical language in the abstract. You have to mention the rationale in brief, one sentence, the general background, main objective, only one sentence. What type of study, primary data, secondary data, or what type of study you're doing, exploratory, descriptive, causal, or quality, quantity, or basic lab practice you have to mention here. And then primary data, secondary data, what I said earlier, a sample. Suppose so which one you're applying, probably sampling, non-probably sampling, and as well as the number of respondents. If the number is very high, you have to mention. If the number of respondents is low, no need to mention. And the statistical tools, what type of statistical tools you're using. Findings of the study, main findings you have to write, and then the contribution of your paper. Contribution is very important question in the conference. You know, we reject the many conference paper. We just mentioned the only one sentence that the contribution of your paper is not clear. The findings of your paper is not clear. So that is very important thing is the contribution of your paper. Okay, so that is the best how you can design the abstract for the conference paper. You know that I don't want to talk academic writing today because I'll discuss the academic writing because I should talk about the academic journals on the session 4. That means that is 4th August. That day I'll talk about the academic writing. So then you can get the more idea this one. Now I like to show you the one conference paper as a sample. Jazila, can you upload that conference paper? What I send you through email?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just showing that one abstract example of the abstract of one conference paper, so they can get the idea.
One minute, sir.
Not yet.
No, 1 minute.
Please.
Yeah, sure.
I mentioned a few key points in the abstract. So remember that you have to mention that study, you have to mention general background, you have to mention about the contribution of your paper, you have to mention the findings of your paper. So that that is the way that how you can construct that on a successful abstract. In what I mentioned earlier, that our main target, your paper must be accepted. When you submit the paper in the conference, if your paper is accepted, that's why we are constructing this way the abstract. Jajila, we are waiting to get the conference paper.
Yeah, sure. Sir, in just 2 minutes.
Oh, it will take the 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Oh, no problem. So in the meantime, can you start to take the question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, please.
So, our first question of the day is, can one submit the same paper for conference as well as journal?
Good question. I think I already explained it, but I like to remind you again what I said. If you submit the one paper in the conference, so its paper is available in the conference proceedings. That proceedings could be available in the online as well. And now if you submit the same paper in the journal, so the journal also available in the online. So when you search your title of your paper, they can see this paper is available in the two sides. One is as a conference paper and the journal paper. So the same paper could not be uploaded in the two places, could not be submitted in two places. We call it unethical. This is unethical. So what I suggest you that, so if you join the one conference, if your paper already published in the conference proceedings, Now you are planning for the journal based on that paper. Even we are getting some comments from the participants in the conference. You're getting some comments from the professor in the conference. Now, based on that, you like to revise the paper. After they revise the paper, and the revision is that our target is 50% of modification. After 50% modification of the conference paper, now you can submit to the journal. And this 50% modification could be done in the title. Title will be changed. Abstract construction will be changed. And then literature review will be added, more literature reviews. So reference will be changed. And then if the survey number responded will be increased. And that is the way that how you can modify the conference paper to journal paper. You know, as you ask this question, I just make sure one thing. A conference paper is a primary school. Journal paper is a high school. So at first go to primary school, but this is not the same. But the study you understand that the more improvement. So that's why I say that at first go to the conference and based on that the reviewer comments and then update information, then now you can revise and go for the journal paper. Okay, thank you.
And our next question is, which type of papers can be submitted for conference? Like whether literature review can be accepted for a conference.
That's good. Yes, you know, usually conference. I just now I mentioned one example: primary school and secondary school. So primary school at first, then we have to go to secondary school. So you understand, primary school is a little flexible. So usually conference paper, we are using the software, plagiarism software. The similarity index we can accept until 40%. In the conference paper, until 40% we can accept the paper. But for journal, we are more rigid, more related, more quality. So usually in journal, we never go to the more than 20%. If it is a SCOPUS index or the Web of Science in the journal. If it is just peer-reviewed journal, we can go only 30%. But what I said that in conference we can go until 40% of similarity index. So little bit the more flexible. So if you submit any paper based on the literature review, you can do this one for the conference paper, no problem. And again, I remind you, then you have to mention in the conclusion that this is just literature review. Based on that, we are designing the one model, and that will be published in our further research, further papers as well. So you would like to mention about the limitation of this paper, as well as you mentioned that what is your next target for the study. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I hope that's clear for the person who has asked the question. And our next question is plagiarism check required for a conference paper? If yes, then what is the minimum plagiarism accepted?
I already mentioned this answer, the 40%. But IEEE, they are accepting 35%. The regular conference, they are using until 40%, but IEEE, they are using 35%. And again, I remind you, we are a little bit flexible in the conference. So those who organize the conference, they are a little flexible about the conference papers. Because we know that some of even the undergraduate level students, BTech students, they submit the paper in the conference. So as a researcher, if we couldn't patronize them, then how they will go for the journal paper? Even sometimes when you notice that in the conference proceedings or conference paper submission, it is that BTech students paper. So a little bit more flexible. Even the similar index until 35, 40, we can accept that one. So your target is that it is not necessary for you to check, but when they will check, they will give you the comment based on this one. If they notice the more than 40, they will like to give the recommendation. Is it possible you have to rectify the contents or the something so they can accept your paper for the conference?
Okay. So it basically varies upon the conference. And okay, and our next question is,
can you see the paper is available? Can you show that paper at first?
Yes, sir. I think just 2 more minutes. Yes, it's almost done. Okay. Yeah. So I hope that's clear, and I have also shared it with the participants so they can see it from their end as well.
Can you increase the size?
Yes. I think
there is an option to increase the size.
But I think this is the maximum.
Are you sure? It's okay. If it's the maximum, I think I can use my own here.
Okay.
Can you share this one with the participant later on, right? You can send to them through email.
Yes. It's already shared with them.
Okay, that's fine.
We have shared in the file section. So the participant
then it's okay. then I'm explaining from there. Okay, so if you have this file, I think you have already filed as per Jesila mentioned. So I like to request you just open the abstract. Let's see how are you designing the abstract. You see, we mentioned here the exploratory study. So what type of study you mentioned already? Okay, and then he mentioned here third line, its applicability or successfully verified and validated through survey data. We mentioned survey data. What is that? This is a primary data. So what is it? We have to mention this one. And then we mentioned here 493 respondents, sample size, number of respondents, 493. If is the number of respondents 100, we never mention this one. Okay. And then look this one. The resulting model is subsequently evaluated for accuracy and validity by multiple linear regression analysis and the structural modeling, same technique. Basically, this is the data analysis part. We could not show, we could not use any kind of statistical language there. We just mentioned that main concept methodology part, how you are going to come up the analysis part. And then come to the last one, is very important one. You see what you mentioned here. The research model provides the last sentence. The research model provides a novel approach for decision makers of each sub-project components to review and appraise their performance toward fulfillment of ultimate goals. That means producing the high caliber graduates and high impact outcomes, comma, which represent two main contributions, comma, for the betterment of the end customer, that means the society. First of all, look very carefully what we are trying to say in this sentence. In this sentence, there are three parts. In that sentence, there are three parts. Look very carefully. The research model provides a novel approach. You see, novel approach for decision makers of each sub-project components to review and appraise their performance to a fulfillment of ultimate goals. This is the one part. Finish. You know that what is the we call it? What is the significance of the sentence? The one characteristic of the sentence that you don't have any question in your mind. If you read one sentence, if you have many questions, this is not the complete sentence. And our target, how we can construct the complete sentence. Look, what is it that ultimate goals? What is the meaning of the ultimate goals? That means producing high caliber graduates and high impact outcomes. Look, comma, which represent two main contribution, comma. You know that between the two comma, you can add the another sentence, which represent two main contribution. So if I ask you now, what is the contribution of this paper? That is a something. Which represent two main contribution? Do you remember I mentioned that is the contribution to your family member? You have to think. Same thing. What is the contribution of this paper? You have to think. Which represent two main contribution? Comma. So between the two comma, one sentence. Okay. For the betterment of the end customer. For the betterment of the end customer. Who are the end customer? The next question. And the answer is the society. So now if I ask you, did you see that there are the two things we mentioned? One is the findings of your paper, and second is the contribution of your paper. So what I said, there are two things we mentioned here. One is the findings of your paper. What is it? The two fulfillment toward the fulfillment of ultimate goals. The ultimate goals. So that is your findings. And to what is the goals, we also explain. And finally, you say what is the contribution to the end customer? End customer means the society. So this is the contribution of your paper. So what I said that this abstract, this is the one abstract that how you can design the abstract. So look very carefully what type of study, what type of data, primary data, secondary data, sample size, and what type of analysis you are doing, and finally that you find findings. What is the main finding, and then finally the last target is that what is the contribution of your paper. If you could maintain this kind of contents in your abstract, you can ensure that this paper must be accepted in any international conference. Okay, that is our target for tonight. Okay, Jazila, can you come back again, please?
Okay, we'll move on to the next question quickly.
Please.
Is it necessary to submit abstract in an indexed conference proceeding?
That is a good question. You know, I suggest that if you are undergraduate level student, master's level student, and PhD scholars, so you should submit the conference paper. It is not necessarily the index journal affiliation. At first a one, and then maybe a second conference, third conference, then you have to go to the next slowly. Research, there is some sequence. It is not like the one night I will be the good research in the world. Slowly, because when you join the first conference, you can see how you can present the paper and what type of questions coming from the participants, how the reviewers say that. So when you submit the paper, the reviewer, they'll do the review process. There is a review process. They have to do this one. And after the review, then your paper will be accepted or rejected. If your paper accepted, then you have to go to the conference for the presentation. And you can mix a lot of researchers. So that means you have to go in this way. Yes, what I said, the conference, they have the affiliation with the index journal. That means they said that selected paper will be published in the different journals after the modification, 50 years of modification. And that time little bit rigid. It's more quality papers are required to accept this kind of journal. So I suggest you that it's okay, this is your ultimate target, but it's not the first target. Your first target, you have to think about that, join the international conference, get some flavor, get some of the experience. Based on this experience, we have to go for the journal, or maybe based on the next conference, there should be the Scopus in the journal affiliation, or the Web of Science in the journal affiliation. That is your second or third priority, not the first priority at all. Thank you.
Okay. So moving on to the next one. How concise should a conference abstract be? That is like, can we add the diagrams and tabular columns in the abstract?
No, you cannot. Abstract will be this, even we cannot use this term, the diagram or some column. We can develop the conceptual model. We can develop the travel in the data analysis part. But in the abstract, it should be the free from the statistical analysis. No statistical language there.
Okay.
No statistical analysis part will be there. It is will be fully academic language, what I said as today many times. So only just wording, but again, academic language. Very strong emphasis, and then what I said that it is a concise version. You have to connect the 2 or 3 parts. You have to connect the 2 to 3 sentences. I suggest you that at first you can write down the top 2 to 3 sentences, then try to connect. And that is the way how you can concise that abstract within the 300 words, 200 words, and that is the way how can you construct the successful abstract as well. Thank you.
And next question is, other than Turnitin, which will be the best plagiarism check tool, and there's a question connected to it, is literature review text also taken into account for plagiarism check?
Good question. But there is lots of software nowadays. You can check in the Google. You can put your contents there, and you can check the plagiarism check. There is lots of software, even the free software they have. But Turnitin software is that best quality, and I can indicate as well. This is the best quality software you can use for the plagiarism check. And literature review plagiarism, usually that similarity index for literature review is very high usually. So that is the way that how you can think. I think today I explained it. There are the 3 ways you can reduce the similarity index for literature review. One is that what I check that rewording. You can use the thesaurus or you can use that like synonyms. And then secondly, I mentioned you can apply. You can use that active voice as to passive voice, present tense to past tense, and finally the paraphrasing to reduce the similarity index. Okay, that is your target. But again, I remind you, maybe it's not possible everywhere. But at least you have to mention that. At first, copy and paste from somewhere, and then you have to note it down how you can change the wording, how you can change the passive voice, active voice, how can you modify the whole paragraph. But it is not very easy. It will take time. But again, I don't forget that if you forget to copy paste at first, maybe someday you are modifying, but it is come to the similar to the like the earlier one. So at first you have to copy and paste, then you have to check how you are changing and what is the similarity and dissimilarity now you are getting after the modification. Okay, next.
And moving on to our last question of the day.
Please.
Difference between conference abstract and a research paper abstract.
That this is a very good question if you ask in this way. research publication. It could be conference paper, it could be journal paper, it could be book chapter, it could be the editorial book, it could be the solo book. So your conference paper would be the research paper as well. And you know that when you do the PhD, if you do the PhD, then from the PhD, suppose you've done the chapter 1 of the PhD, chapter 2 of the PhD, chapter 1 introduction, chapter literature review. From there you can publish the paper. So basically, you can publish the paper in the conference. So that means your conference paper coming from your PhD research. So that is the research. So that's why I said that you shouldn't isolate. This conference paper is isolated from the research paper. No, it is integrated from it. And without the research, even you do the very simple. You like to do the one research, like customer satisfaction on KFC. Say in the one area, like the Chennai. Customer satisfaction on KFC in Chennai. You can, it's not research paper, but you are doing the survey. Survey is a part of the research. So you are taking the 200 customers' opinion, 300 customer opinion, then come to the decision. Findings come about based on customer decision. That is the research as well. Yes, that is not maybe the basic research. That is not the like the expert research. That is we call it the applied research. We call it descriptive research as only one area. That's what we will discuss in the next session. And maybe your this question linked to our next session. Tomorrow session will discuss about this one. That how we can come up with this kind of plans. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope all the questions asked by the participants are clear. We have tried answering the majority of the questions which have come up repeatedly. In case if we haven't answered your questions, I'm sure we must have answered in our previous session, or we will answer in the upcoming sessions. So attend all the sessions throughout all the 5 days. All the international speakers, they'll be discussing on each aspect what is required for publishing a research paper and how to write it. So attend all our sessions. And if you are a person who have missed yesterday's session, you need not worry. You can watch it from my YouTube channel. Subscribe to IFERP YouTube channel. You will get all our uninterrupted services, all the classes free on our YouTube channel. And we also have an exciting offer for all the participants who have joined today. I would like to introduce to you our academic partner, United Innovators. If you're a person who is looking for writing a best research paper with zero plagiarism, then this is the right option service for you. I have given the details in the chat box. You can go through it. United Innovators, they are providing research article writing, thesis writing, all that you need for a good research article writing, and they are also providing publication as well in reputed Q1, Q2, Q3 journals. So kindly log into it and you can join right now. And another important thing regarding the PPTs, we have uploaded in the Webinar Jam tool itself. All the registered participants can join. Click on the link and download yourself. Similarly, the certificates for each session, we have uploaded it. You can click on the link and download it all by yourself. Other than that, if you have any queries or any questions related to PPT presentations or certification, kindly write an email to us, which is given right over here, webinar@iferp.in. We'll be replying to you all the queries at the earliest. And for all updated events and webinars of IFERP, follow our page on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can sit and watch at your home comfort. All international speakers, they are delivering a great talk on all the days. So I'm very sure it will be very informative. And with this, we come to the end of the session, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today. And looking forward to tomorrow's session as well. Yep. Tomorrow, same time at your country. And if you're in India, it is at Indian time, 5 p.m. So stay tuned with us tomorrow. Tomorrow also, Dr. Mamun sir will be joining us with another informative and interesting session.
Yeah.
You,
so
sir.
if participant, you have any question, you can also send the email to me directly. I think you notice my email address there. And or you can send an email to the IFERP, they'll forward to me.
Yeah, sure. We'll be doing that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for joining us throughout the session. And see you all tomorrow at the same time. Thank you. Good day. Thank you, sir. Good day.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.